Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into a massive, honestly kind of overwhelming question that is dominating absolutely everything right now, from our daily news feeds to, well, our own wallets. We're going to map out the hidden economic changes that are literally reshaping our entire world as we speak.
So here's the big one. Why is life becoming so incredibly expensive? It's a core question that millions of us across developed nations, the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, are feeling right at this very moment. I mean, people are working longer hours, right? But somehow, we're saving less. Families are cutting out the fun stuff, young adults are putting off buying homes, and even high-income professionals are feeling this very real, undeniable financial pressure.
Just think about this for a second. Imagine earning more money than you did 5 years ago, yet feeling poorer than ever before. Man, if you feel this way, let me just say it is absolutely not your imagination. You're not crazy. This is a heavily documented global phenomenon. So what is actually happening beneath the surface here? Let's figure it out.
Section 1. The Great Disconnect, the Illusion of Wealth. Okay, let's dive into this. We really need to look past the daily news headlines for a minute. You might be looking at your paycheck and seeing higher numbers, but the brutal reality of everyday living expenses is just completely overshadowing that bump in pay. It's wild. This stark disconnect between a growing salary and a shrinking bank account, that perfectly sets up our macro to micro view of the economy today.
Section 2. The invisible tax. Inflation, the silent killer.
Okay, so we hear the word inflation thrown around all the time, right? But I want you to think of it more like a leaky bucket that is slowly but surely draining your hard-earned cash. Let's make this hyper-tangible. A regular cup of coffee that cost you, say, $3 just a few short years ago, yeah, that might cost you $5 now. And obviously, it doesn't stop at coffee. Groceries, gas, electricity, healthcare, rent, the whole shebang has surged. So the important question isn't actually whether your salary went up. The real question is, did your income increase faster than inflation? And for millions of people, the answer is a resounding, painful no.
So it really all boils down to one thing: purchasing power. Basically, when you earn more currency, but that same currency buys you fewer goods and services, your household feels totally stressed out, even if you're making more money on paper. Purchasing power is literally the only metric that truly matters here. Its decline is the exact reason why things feel so impossibly tight right now.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we got here. It wasn't just one isolated event, It was a massive domino effect. First, global supply chains got totally disrupted, making shipping insanely expensive and slowing factories down to a crawl. Then, bam, energy prices spiked globally. And finally, as the world reopened, demand skyrocketed, way faster than supply could actually keep up. When you have too many people competing for a limited amount of goods, businesses just pass those operating costs right on to consumers. Boom, higher prices everywhere.
Section 3. The Global Seesaw, the Central Bank Response. So when massive global forces push inflation up this high, the major players, we're talking the US Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, they have to step into the arena. Now, they use interest rates as their main tool, but honestly, it's a nearly impossible balancing act. By raising rates, their goal is to make borrowing more expensive. That cools down spending and hopefully reduces that red-hot inflation. But the massive risk? Doing this essentially throws an anchor on economic growth overall. It is a crazy, precarious tightrope walk, trying to cool the economy down without causing it to just freeze up entirely.
Section 4. The Squeeze. Housing, Wages, and Debt.
Zooming right back into the micro level, meaning to you and me, this is exactly where high interest rates start to really hurt the everyday person. When central banks raise those rates, suddenly mortgages become incredibly expensive. Car loans, costlier. The interest on your credit card shoots up, meaning your existing debt is growing way faster. And if you're running a small business, loans become so much harder and more expensive to secure. It's basically this accumulating financial pressure coming at us from every single angle.
And nowhere is this more glaringly obvious than in housing, which has easily become one of the defining economic issues of this entire decade. Home prices skyrocketed over the last few years, but instead of getting low interest rates to help compensate for that, mortgage rates spiked at the exact same time. This double whammy is a massive blow to affordability. It's literally forcing young adults to stay living at home with their parents much longer, and it's heavily driving up rent prices because, well, a ton of people are just forced into the rental market.
Compounding all that housing pressure is the harsh reality that wage growth has just been slower than overall inflation. And look, it is incredibly frustrating to work your tail off, finally get a raise, and yet still feel like you're falling behind.
But neutrally speaking, businesses are facing way higher costs too, so a lot of them simply cannot increase salaries as quickly as their employees actually need them to.
Now let's add just one more layer of complexity to the job market: artificial intelligence and automation. These tech advancements are rapidly transforming whole industries. Highly repetitive jobs are disappearing. And sure, while new jobs are absolutely being created, it means workers are essentially forced to continuously learn new skills. History always shows technology changing labor markets, but the speed of change today, it's totally unprecedented. You literally have to adapt and fast.
Because of all these swirling factors, people constantly ask, hey, are we in a recession? Well, the reality is, economic statistics and personal financial experiences don't always match up. Actually, they rarely do. Whether a country's GDP is technically growing or shrinking on some spreadsheet somewhere, the financial hardship on households dealing with expensive debt, high housing costs, and inflation, that is still very, very real. You can absolutely have a growing economy and a struggling population at the exact same time.
Section 5. Taking back control. Adapting to the new economy. Now, what's really interesting about this pivot is how we can actually build resilience.
Look, no one can single-handedly control the global economy, but you can build incredible personal financial resilience. First up, build an emergency fund. Cash is your ultimate buffer against all this unpredictability. Second, aggressively reduce unnecessary debt, especially those high-interest credit cards. Third, invest in your own education and skills. Remember how fast AI is changing things? You got to stay adaptable. Fourth, try to diversify your income. Maybe look into freelancing or a side gig so you aren't completely reliant on just one paycheck. And finally, invest consistently for the long term instead of, chasing quick, risky profits.
Adopting these small, consistent financial habits, it creates massive results over time. History shows us that every single economic cycle eventually changes. So I really want to reassure you, this current squeeze, it won't last forever. The folks who continue learning, who manage their money wisely, and who adapt to new opportunities, they are the ones who will be best prepared for whatever comes next.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. The global economy will absolutely continue evolving. The environment is super complex, sure, but knowledge allows you to make better decisions. So the only real question left is, the economy will continue evolving. Will we evolve with it? Thank you so much for hanging out and exploring this with me today. Stay curious, stay adaptable, and take control of your financial future.